Hello, my name is David, and welcome back to my channel where we are talking mutants on Mutant Mondays. This is a new feature on my channel where I'm going to be talking about X-Men comics every Monday. Because, twofold. One, I'm reading an X-Men comic, at least one, each and every day, in an effort to read more of what's out there. I've always loved the X-Men. But two, also to take part in my 40 before 40, where I picked out 40 X-Men storylines, or X-Men adjacent storylines, that I plan to read before I turn 40 next summer. Now, that's changing a little bit of shape. I'm going to be a little more free and loose with some of it. And part of that stems from a little bit of disappointment here. So we're going to talk about Phoenix Resurrection, The Return of Jean Grey, which is a 5-issue miniseries that ran, I believe, around 2018. And it centers around exactly what you would expect from here. The Phoenix, Jean Grey, is back. And you see some familiar faces there. You've got Colossus, you've got Storm, you've got Rogue, you've got Jubilee, you've got Nightcrawler, and you've got Wolverine. Okay, so, a lot of familiar faces for somebody that might have nostalgia tied to the storyline of the X-Men, say from the 90s, when I got really big into it with the cartoon series. All of those are very familiar characters for me. So, we start off in a very quiet town where we have something strange is going to happen. So we have a little town, we got kids riding a bike, and then, oh no, they come across somebody who has got no visible wound, but is bleeding. And gets up and speaks backwards. We were better off dead. Yeah, speaking backwards. It's freaking things out. And so, of course, when things freaky start coming up, who do you call? Of course, you call the X-Men. We're going to arrive on site and investigate into this. And it is strange. We have Wolverine, that's the Old Man Logan version of Wolverine. This does qualify as weirdness. And alongside familiar faces, there are some unfamiliar ones. The nosebleed that you see there is a pretty common sign that they do visually for psychic powers, telekinesis. But we have right before that, so she's psychic, Rachel. She's speaking backwards as well. Better off dead. So weird stuff is going on. And that leads to a delightful panel here of a whole bunch of people called together and being instructed by Kitty Pryde as to what's going on, what they know so far. They're going to split into 3 groups because they've got 3 signals from 3 different places. So we have a very, very strange looking beast. My God. I thought Cat Beast was weird. And so they are going to... They found unusual energy phenomena in 3 locations. The heart of Midtown 66th Street and 5th Avenue in Manhattan, Mont St. Francis Monastery in the southern part of France, and the top of the world in the North Pole. And all of those, apparently, for people that are very knowledgeable about the Phoenix X-Men, those are all notable locations for Jean Grey. So they're splitting into 3 different teams. So you can see here from the first one. So it's the former Hellfire Club. So you've got a group of mutants that are gone there to investigate. Then you've got the Mont St. Francis, and then another team up to the North Pole. And yes, that is Sabretooth right there behind Wolverine. At least I'm pretty sure that is. Because apparently he's an X-Men now. But, I mean, that's not even my biggest question. But you can see here, they go into places and they're getting ambushed. Bad stuff is happening. Team at the North Pole. Oh, hey, there's Wolverine. You know, you've got the Hellfire Club. And the scene that makes me the most curious right here. We have Vampire Jubilee, maybe? She's taking a big old bite out of the neck and says, blah, they're not human. So, you know, that lets them, okay, well, don't hold back. These are not human, so just attack. And as things are devolving, it's getting bad. And this is happening everywhere. So, you know, we have Wolverine's just taking out everybody. It's down to him and Old Man Logan. And then all of a sudden he's vanished. So trouble ensues. And we have elsewhere, looking up at the sky, there's that big, gleaming, shining light. And you can see the shape there. It is definitely the shape of a phoenix. And then we get to see Jean Grey right there, standing right next to this gal, who was a childhood friend, but has not been alive for many, many years. And of course, we have Jean. She gets home to her parents, and she's getting ready to go out on a date with Scott Summers. So the reader is able to pick up on things being amiss. So now we get to issue 2 here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. We'll cut to the chase here. You know, there's a lot more traveling around, a lot more unrealistic scenes. So she has to go and get her vehicle repaired, and it's, you know, it looks like Logan. And of course, you know, if you know anything about the X-Men, you probably know that while Cyclops and Jean Grey were an item, they were a couple, Wolverine was always the odd man out. He loved Jean Grey. He wanted that. And there's all kinds of, you know, interesting things that are going on through here. And eventually it leads to Jean runs into a burning building, and it comes face to face with Phoenix. And the premise that this all comes upon. So it gets to the final books here. And what it's leading up to is they are going to go face to face with Jean Grey. They've located her through Emma Frost. We have Jean Grey. She's talking to people, but the person's, you know, dead and talking. But when she gets into the picture, oh hey, you know, they're back to life. And this is really shown here. You see the fire behind her, the person on the bike. As soon as they pass her, on fire. She turns and looks, the fire is shifted. So it's very, very clear that something is going on in here. It reminds me very much of WandaVision, actually. So they find this, essentially a cocoon almost, where they go in and enter into this terrible place in Arizona. Big fights ensuing. We're coming towards the end here of the 4th issue, and there's the giant phoenix hanging out over this restaurant where Jean Grey is located. And so, of course, you know, what do we do? Logan, Old Man Logan, we kill a god. Because the Phoenix is cosmic force. You know, it is terrible. they realize, well, if it's not bonded with her yet, it's in a weakened state, right? And yeah, I mean, it is. So they should be able to fight it. But they decide that, you know what, we should go in and we should talk to Gene. We should send one person in. And Scott Summers, a young Scott Summers, volunteers to go. And then Logan, you've got cuts, kid, but it should be me. The very famous there. You didn't ever love her. So this is a different Scott. I don't know why there's young X-Men here. But old man Logan, you didn't love her. I did. And so he goes in and he talks to her. And he's showing her in his, his fashion. Okay, things aren't what you see. Oh my gosh, is she okay? But all of a sudden she's getting up because that coworker is the Phoenix. It's my job to make you see it, Logan tells her. And you can see here, as he's talking to her, he's got the claws partially retracted. He's ready to do what he needs to do. And then that leads to the Phoenix. She remembers. And so we conclude this with Jean and the Phoenix having a conversation. Yes. All this build-up to have a conversation. You could have everything. You could have the world. You could make everything a reality. There's Scott Summers. You could have him back. You're not dead. You're alive. You can take off your visor. Trust me. The famous scenes here. She's able to control his eye power so that they can share a kiss. We were better off dead. And then he fades. He dies. Just like he already was. She challenges the Phoenix, is that it? And she says, I'm done. I won't do this anymore. We see her transforming through her different things. The Phoenix is trying to entice her. You can become your best self. We can go hide together. We can transcend this. We could be gods. We could go back to things the way they were before. And of course, she sends the Phoenix away. Welcome home, Jean. The end. It was fine. It wasn't great. I didn't dislike any of them as I'm reading them, but I didn't love any of them either. It was fine. The artwork was good, apart from Beast. It's interesting, probably even more so for people that have been reading the comics for decades. It followed on all the ups and downs, the times that Jean has returned in all her different evolutions. I haven't, so it didn't hit nearly as hard for me. I get what it's going for, but it just didn't really hit me in that way. And that's why I'm reconsidering my approach on this 40 before 40. Because I got 33 of the things off the list from a website that ranked 33 X-Men storylines. This here was at the very top of the bottom third. So it was number 1 out of the bottom 11. That has me concerned about those other 10. And just how bad are they going to get? So I think instead I'm going to, still keep that list. I've picked some of them up off of the list. But I'm also going to do things like integrate epic collections, because I really want to start picking up some of the epic collections. And that's probably where I should focus my attention and time, is getting some of the X-Men Epic collections and reading through those. They'll have storylines in there. And it'll give me something I can talk about each and every Monday, what I've been reading through those. So, there you go. Phoenix Resurrection. If you're a big fan of Phoenix, if you're a longtime Marvel X-Men reader, then you'll probably want to check this out. Otherwise, you could probably skip this. I'm very glad it was a library copy, and so I was able to just check it out. And that it was only 5 issues long. So, there we go. A little bit of disappointment, but still not bad. I'm still glad I read it. I will catch you later.